The morning sun had barely risen when Okolo Mbanusi woke up with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. While his parents still slept, he carefully counted the sachets he had collected the previous evening. 23. He needed 27 more to reach 50. 27 more chances at something different. He folded the sachets carefully and tucked them into a small nylon bag he had found, then hid it under his sleeping mat alongside his tin of savings. His mother stirred, and Okolo quickly stood up, not wanting to explain what he was doing. How could he explain hope to people who had forgotten what it felt like? By 6 o'clock, he was already at Ogbete Main Market, his barrow positioned strategically near the main entrance. But today was different. Today, Okolo saw the market through new eyes. Everywhere he looked, he saw onga sachets. The mama put sellers who fried akara and yam used them. The restaurant operators who prepared jollof rice and stew in massive pots used dozens every single day. The buka owners, the street food vendors, they all relied on that distinctive red and white seasoning. And when they were done, they tossed the empty sachets away without a second thought. Barrow, boy! Okolo snapped to attention. A middle-aged woman carrying several Ghana Musco bags needed help. As he loaded her belongings, he noticed she was a food seller based on the giant pots and cooking utensils among her items. His heart raced with possibility. "Madam, please," he ventured carefully as they walked, "when you finish using your seasoning sachets, can you keep them for me instead of throwing them away?" The woman stopped walking and stared at him as if he had sprouted a second head. "Seasoning sachets? You mean the empty ones?" "Yes, Ma. The onga ones especially." She laughed, a sound that wasn't entirely kind. "What does a barrow pusher want with garbage? Have you lost your senses in this sun?" Okolo felt his face grow hot with embarrassment, but he pressed on. "There is a promotion, Ma. If I collect 50 sachets, I can win something." The woman's laughter died down, replaced by something that looked almost like pity. "Win something," she repeated slowly. "My son, people like us don't win anything. Those promotions are for show. The real prizes go to the big men and their children. Don't waste your time chasing wind." She paid him his money and walked away, shaking her head and muttering about foolish young men with unrealistic dreams. But Okolo refused to be discouraged. The day was young, and he had 27 sachets to find. Throughout that morning, Okolo developed a system. Between customers, during the brief moments of waiting, he would walk around the market, his eyes scanning the ground, the gutters, the small mountains of refuse that accumulated near food stalls. Some of the sachets were clean, recently discarded. Others were dirty, stepped on, mixed with other trash. He took them all, wiping them as best as he could, checking to make sure the promotional information on the back was still visible. People noticed. "Okolo has finally gone mad," he heard one trader whisper to another. "The poverty has affected his brain." A group of market boys his age called out to him mockingly, "Okolo, the garbage collector! You have left barrow pushing to become a scavenger." Their laughter followed him as he bent down to retrieve 3 more sachets from near a buka. Each laugh was a knife, each mocking comment a wound. But Okolo had made peace with something profound. Temporary shame was bearable if it led to permanent change. His dignity had already been stripped away by poverty. What was a little more embarrassment if it meant a chance at redemption? By midday, he had collected 15 more sachets, 38 total, only 12 to go. As he pushed his barrow toward a customer, he passed by Chidinma's provision store. His heart clenched painfully at the sight. Chidinma, the girl he had loved since they were teenagers, the girl who used to smile at him, who used to talk about their future together, who used to believe in him. That was before poverty had completely consumed his family, before the debts had piled up so high that her parents had forbidden her from associating with that Mbanusi boy. Before she had started dating Emeka, the young man whose father owned a fleet of buses and who could afford to buy her expensive gifts. As if summoned by his thoughts, Chidinma emerged from her mother's store. She looked beautiful in a yellow dress that caught the sunlight. For a moment, their eyes met. Okolo saw the flicker of recognition, followed immediately by something that hurt worse than anger: pity. She looked away quickly and hurried in the opposite direction. Okolo stood there for a moment, his hands gripping the barrow handles so tightly his knuckles turned white. Another dream discarded. Another door closed. The universe seemed determined to remind him of his place in the world. But then he thought about the 38 sachets hidden under his mat at home. He thought about the 12 more he needed to collect. And he thought about something his father had said once during one of his rare moments of wisdom. A man is not defeated when he falls down. He is only defeated when he refuses to stand up again. Okolo took a deep breath and kept moving. The afternoon brought a breakthrough. As he delivered goods to a restaurant owner, he mustered the courage to ask again about collecting sachets. This time, the response was different. Onga sachets? The restaurant owner, a kind-faced woman named Mama Daez, looked thoughtful. You want to enter the promotion? Yes, Ma. I just need to collect 50 sachets. To his surprise, Mama Daez smiled. You know, my daughter tried this thing last year with another company. She didn't win the big prize, but she got airtime. Free airtime! She disappeared into her kitchen and emerged with a small bag. I've been throwing these away all week. Take them, and come back next week. I'll save more for you. Okolo could barely believe what was happening. Inside the bag were 18 Onga sachets. 18! Combined with his 38, he now had 56. More than enough for his first redemption. Thank you, Ma. God bless you, Ma. The words tumbled out of him in a rush of gratitude. Mama Adaezi waved away his thanks. Just remember me when you win the big prize, she said with a laugh that suggested she didn't actually believe such a thing would happen, but was willing to humor him anyway. That evening, Okolo practically ran home. His father was already back, sitting in his usual spot, staring at nothing. His mother was preparing their meagre dinner of gari and soup, so watery you could see the bottom of the plate through it. Mama, Papa, Okolo announced, unable to contain his excitement. I have collected 50 Onga sachets. Tomorrow I will go to the redemption center. His mother looked up from her cooking, confusion written across her tired face. Redemption center, what is that? Okolo explained about the promotion, about how he had been collecting the sachets, about the possibility of winning prizes. As he spoke, he watched his parents' faces carefully. His mother's expression shifted from confusion to concern. His father's face remained impassive, but something flickered in his eyes. Hope? Or was it fear of another disappointment? My son, his mother said gently, these promotions, they are for people with connections, people who know somebody, not for people like us. Mama, I have to try. His father finally spoke, his voice rough from disuse. Let the boy try. What has he got to lose? What indeed, Okolo thought. He had already lost everything that mattered, respect, dignity, the girl he loved, any semblance of a normal life. What was one more disappointment added to the mountain of disappointments that was his existence? But what if it wasn't a disappointment? What if, for once in his cursed life, something went right? The next morning, Okolo woke up earlier than usual. He carefully selected his best clothes, a faded shirt that only had one small hole near the collar, and trousers that had been patched so many times they looked like a map of some unknown country. He washed his face and hands thoroughly, wanting to look as presentable as possible. His mother gave him money for transport, money they could barely afford. Come back quickly, she said. Don't let your hope blind you to reality. The redemption center was located in the newer part of Enugu, in a shopping complex that Okolo had never entered before. As he approached the building, his confidence wavered. The security guards looked at him suspiciously. The other people entering and leaving the building were well-dressed, confident, clearly belonging to a world he had only observed from a distance. He almost turned back. But then he remembered his mother's tears, his father's broken spirit, the weight of the barrow on his shoulders day after day, the way Chidinma had looked away from him as if he was something shameful. No, he had come this far. He would see it through. Inside the redemption center, a bored-looking young woman sat behind a desk, scrolling through her phone. She barely glanced up when Okolo approached. Yes? Her tone suggested he was interrupting something important. Good morning. Okolo's voice came out smaller than he intended. He cleared his throat and tried again. I came to redeem sachets for the Onga promotion. Now she looked up, her eyes scanning him from head to toe, taking in his worn clothes, his nervous demeanor. You have 50 sachets? Yes. He placed his carefully bundled sachets on the counter. She sighed heavily, as if he had just asked her to climb a mountain, and began counting. Okolo's heart pounded so loudly he was sure everyone in the building could hear it. Each sachet she counted felt like a second ticking toward either vindication or humiliation. 47, 48, 49, 50. She looked up. You have exactly 50. Did you read the terms and conditions? Okolo nodded, though he wasn't entirely sure what all the terms and conditions were. Fill this form. His hands trembled as he filled out the registration form with his details. Name, Okolo Mbanusi. Occupation, barrow pusher. The woman glanced at the occupation and her eyebrow raised slightly, but she said nothing. Wait here. She disappeared into a back room. Okolo stood there, shifting his weight from foot to foot, aware of other customers giving him curious glances. Minutes felt like hours. What was taking so long? Had they discovered something wrong with his sachets? Were they going to tell him this was all a mistake? Finally, the woman returned, carrying a small envelope. Congratulations, she said in a monotone that suggested she delivered these congratulations dozens of times a day. You've won airtime worth 500 naira. Okolo stared at the envelope. 500 naira. That was more than he made in 2 days of pushing the barrow. That was airtime he could use for an entire month. That was, sir? The woman was holding out the envelope impatiently. He took it with shaking hands. Thank you. Thank you so much. As he walked out of the redemption center, Okolo looked at the envelope in his hands. 500 naira worth of airtime. It wasn't 1,000,000 naira. It wasn't a car or a house or any of the grand prizes advertised. But it was real. It was his. And more importantly, it proved something that had seemed impossible just days ago. He could win. People like him could win. The walk back to Ogbeti Main Market felt different. The streets looked brighter. The air smelled sweeter. Okolo kept touching the envelope in his pocket to make sure it was real, that this wasn't some cruel dream. When he reached the market, instead of going straight to his barrow station, he detoured to Mama Adesi's restaurant. She was in the middle of the lunch rush, but when she saw him, she paused. Mama, I won! He couldn't keep the joy out of his voice. Airtime! 500 naira! Mama Adesi's face broke into a genuine smile. You see, I told you! This boy, you have won! She called out to the other food sellers nearby. Come and see, Okolo has won the promotion. Some of the women came out to see, their faces showing various degrees of surprise and skepticism. But Mama Adesi's enthusiasm was infectious. So what will you do now, she asked. Okolo's answer came without hesitation. I will collect 50 more sachets. The women laughed, but it was a different kind of laughter now. Not mocking, but amazed at his audacity. This boy is serious, one of them declared. Okolo, if you want sachets, come to my shop. I will save them for you. And mine, another chimed in. Suddenly, Okolo had a network. Women who had previously ignored him or looked down on him were now willing to help, all because he had proven that winning was possible. All because he had turned what they thought was garbage into something valuable. That evening, when Okolo returned home and showed his parents the airtime voucher, his mother cried. But these were different tears than the ones he was used to seeing. These were tears of joy, of possibility, of a tiny crack appearing in the wall of their poverty. His father didn't say much, but he clapped Okolo on the shoulder in a gesture that conveyed more than words ever could. As Okolo lay down that night, he was already planning. Mama Adesi had promised him sachets. The other food sellers had promised sachets. With their help, he could collect 50 sachets much faster than before. Maybe in a few weeks he could redeem again. Maybe he would win more airtime. Maybe he would win something bigger. Maybe, just maybe, his luck was beginning to change. Outside, in the darkness of their small room, Okolo allowed himself to dream. Not big, impossible dreams, but small, achievable ones. Dreams of collecting more sachets. Dreams of winning again, dreams of seeing his mother smile more often, dreams of showing Chidinma and everyone else who had doubted him that Okolo Mbanusi was more than just a barrow pusher. He was a man who turned garbage into opportunity. He was a man who refused to give up. And somewhere in the universe, fate was preparing to reward his persistence in ways he couldn't possibly imagine. The real journey was just beginning. Did you like this story and which city are you watching from? Please subscribe for more.